first Hills Have Eyes reunion, and the only one in world history. And here we're going to discuss the legendary Hills Have Eyes. This movie continues to have power over all these years. This morning when I went to buy a coffee, the middle-aged woman who saw my t-shirt for a different movie told me that the scariest movie she ever saw was The Hills Have Eyes. True story. Right up the street. I told her you were all here, So in any event, The Hills Have Eyes followed Last House on the Left, which was a big independent hit. Were any of you aware of Last House on the Left? Had you seen it before getting involved with The Hills Have Eyes?
That'd be it.
I didn't go see scary movies.
I did, but I missed that one. I didn't.
Is this on?
Yeah.
Yes, David Hess, a very dear friend. We all miss David, but that was one scary movie.
Never saw it.
And what were your first impressions of Wes Craven when you met him?
I thought he was really nice and gentle, and we did a lot of improv too on the first meeting, and so he was just really sweet, really kind person, smart too,
Quiet, unassuming. I mean, you wouldn't believe he writes these incredible, scary movies when he's such a quiet little person, right?
Yeah, he's like a college professor.
Yes.
Is he?
Actually,
He was
actually, he was a teacher. I met Wes at a meditation group in Los Angeles in the 70s. And we hung, well, excuse me.
The cuffs are off.
So,
Very laid back.
anyway, so we hung out, and then when the picture came around, he asked me to score it. He was very unhappy with the score because it was very strange and weird, and it was atonal, and I had been studying Penderecki, and I wrote these really strange string parts. But it worked out all right. Everybody, in the end, they decided it was all right. But when I first played on the scoring, we were on the stage. Because in those days, there were no synthesizers, so he had to wait until we got to the scoring stage to find out what I was doing. And it was like, what is that noise? And I said, that's my music. Anyway, it worked out.
Here's a piece of trivia that I found out just today. That the necklace that I wore of the teeth and that Michael wore, they use that in the score. The jangling, jingling in the background is our teeth. Using it as instruments.
I remember the moment when Ruby has the baby and you're in the cave and this family's pursuing you and you are a safe child and you do that beautiful. Was that like a harp or the string? I think
It was, I don't recall exactly what it was. I'd have to look at the phone.
it was very soothing for the moment.
Thank you, Michael.
I remember when the snake got loose in the mountains and all the guys were up the hill, gone. And I was the only one left there.
Janice said today, now is it not true that you picked the snake up?
I did pick it up.
And just so you know, I used to live in the high desert in Lucerne Valley. I lived in a wolf sanctuary near Big Bear for 20 years, and I knew the desert very, very well. Well, the gentleman who brought a rattlesnake to the set to be in a movie, the snake was his pet, okay? The snake was not just a regular rattlesnake.
And he'd been bitten a lot of times.
He's
Yeah.
very dead. It was a Mojave green. Google Mojave green. It's a neural and muscle toxin. It's as deadly as a cobra. And he had taken monofilament line and sewn the jaw to where it could only open it a little bit. And I was sitting at lunch, and we were in a ravine, and I saw people jumping out of the way like they were catapulted. And I said, maybe I should. I did that, and you picked up the snake. I think you went to hand it to Wes or Peter. Somebody fainted, and last thing I know, the guy is he's getting his sandwich. He goes, "Oh God!" and he's running toward you. And
You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that.
it really happened. We could have been dead.
Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, you told me to pick it up.
Yeah, we have lots of stories about how things weren't handled.
We're going there.
Well, I mean, those are the stories. You want to hear the stories about
Tell
it?
us.
Well, I mean, guys, this was about as low budget as it could get. We were just happy. We get to be actors, right? So it was out in the middle of the desert. We had one motorhome that all the cast and crew used. Do I need to go any further? So, of course, the sewer goes out, the toilet backs up, there's no place, there's no bathroom. But we were making a movie, so we were having freezing our butts off. You remember?
Yeah.
Literally freezing our butts off, and just a lot of special effects, nightmares happen,
And hot in the day.
and really hot in the day.
Daytime is miserable, and at night we froze. And I love the scene where you guys are trying to stay warm by the fire, and it's windy and it's a big fire, and it's like, and you're having the dialogue like,
Yeah, it gets really windy and cold in the desert at night.
Well, the rocks don't hold the heat as you would expect they would. 105 degrees in the afternoon, you're sweating your guts out, and all of a sudden the sun goes down and bam, it's freezing. It's just crazy. And we didn't have jackets and we weren't prepared, so it was a very strange time. Everybody was rushing for the same trailer for cover to stay warm.
That
But then
stunk to death because
But then we had to stay outside to shoot.
Yeah, it's the
So-
pitfalls. I mean, it was a low-budget film. Everyone involved. It was, early in everyone's career, so nobody knew what to expect. And actually, the set design, I always liked the set designs too. And the set design was our old friend Robert Burns, who has actually done the show. I was friends with Bob for years, and he's done the show. He also created Leatherface. He did all the set dressings for the cannibal cave and you brought up the little necklaces. He made all the little necklaces that you used for. So yeah,
Now see, I don't have any memory of it being really, really cold and really, really hot. I was so into character that I just won with it, I guess.
you were naked.
I know. I don't know. I wasn't.
That's in character for her to be naked.
I was in a little leather outfit, and I don't remember it being cold.
Well, how did you get the role? How did you get the role, Jen? How were you able to?
Actually, the famous Schwab's coffee shop on Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
I used to go there and hang out because you knew little tidbits, little tips about who's doing what, and someone said, "Oh, they're casting this movie down there on whatever street it was in Hollywood. Go over there." And so I parked my car and I walk up there. All these little dogs, a bunch of little dogs, like 7 of them. I'm going, "Oh God, what am I walking into?" And this man opens the door and goes, "Oh, well, they're down there, down the street on Sunset. Go down there and tell them I sent you." So I went over there and down below, behind this restaurant, they were doing the casting down there. And they took several of us outside. They had liked a callback and told us to run. Because, female running in the mountain, in the woods and all in the hills, in the desert, you have to look athletic. So when he said, "Go, run down there, touch that pole and run back," and he said, "Go," and I just stood there and he looked at me like, "You're not moving," and I went, and just took off and did it and just ran all the way back and beat all the girls and he went, "All right." Okay. It's basically, I think I did it. Yeah. I would run faster.
I had an interesting experience. I just went on a call from my agent sent me, and I read. They said, "Geez, that's okay. That's very nice. Could you stay and read with this next girl?" I said, "Sure, whatever." So I read with the next person, and they said, "Could you stay a few more minutes and read with this person?" And we have another person who we'd like you to read with.
They were using you.
They were using me, but I was using them in a way. I was solidifying the part, as I, eventually found out. But they liked me, and they wanted to pair me up with other people, and so you just never know as an actor. Oftentimes, as an actor, you get called in on something, they read you and say, "Thank you very much, nice to see you, and goodbye." And you don't know for a week or two. Sometimes they'll send you a script in the mail before the agent calls you up and says you got the part. But there wasn't any agent in this point. At this point, we just landed the part, and they said,
Oops,
"Thank you very much."
I swear to God, I don't remember. I guess I must have read for it because I hadn't done anything but a religious film before that, so I guess I read.
We didn't meet until then.
I
I auditioned for it. My agent sent me in, and I'd done a lot of sitcom at that time, and I wanted to be a movie star. So I just decided, when it was offered, my agent said, "You can't do that movie, it's awful." And I said, "I'm doing it. I'm going to be in a movie." And it was life-changing for me. I met my husband through doing it. I also, it keeps coming back to, The Hills Have Eyes keeps coming back to haunt me. I just did a new movie called Cut, where I play Susan Lanier from The Hills Have Eyes, grown-up horror film director, starring myself and Dee's real daughter, Gabrielle Stone. You must watch for her, because Gabrielle's amazing. She's as talented as Dee, and she looks like her. And it's really amazing. Also, we're all pretty good friends. I spent Thanksgiving and Christmas with Michael, and I spent New Year's Eve with Dee this year. So
It's an incestuous.
Even though we did it many years ago, it still really, really had a huge impact on all of our lives.
Yeah, you never know what for part, what's going to happen to him. Did you ever think he's going to be so famous? How would you know? You don't know. I did the part because I really liked the challenge of the role. If I didn't believe me, you're not going to believe me, and the film's going to fail. So for me, I like the challenge.
Yeah, and the best part, there's a lot of people here who watched it. The movie stands the test of time.
Thank you all for being here, by the way. Thank you all for being here.
Did you all see the movie just before you came here? Cool. I want to point out that I have the movie memorized. There's some glorious moments. And one of my favorites is when you have to kill Mars. I mean, I was feeling so much for your empathy. Oh, Mars! And then you take the rattlesnake. It's hard to watch. It really is.
I had to do it. He was going to hurt the baby.
I know.
Right. And I was very happy she was there to assist me.
Yes.
I had a guy earlier ask me, he said, "I've never seen the film. Is it gory?" And I said, "No, but it's scary as hell."
Oh, yeah.
I said, you didn't need gore. It's honestly frightening.
Actually has a story.
The parakeet scene is,
When Mars was trying to get the parakeet, he was trying to get the prop parakeet, and Lance told me later. He said, "I was so nervous because the parakeet in the cage was actually so afraid. It kept jumping into his hand. He kept trying to grab the prop one. And finally he did. It was brutally effective. And when Pluto comes in and he steals all the food, anybody, can you tell me what he leaves in the refrigerator?
Soda.
Exactly.
Really?
I leave the red apple, the green apple, and the soda pop. Because Pluto's, it's a lifestyle, you have to eat that. Carnivore forever.
I want to speak for a second about post-production, because the composer comes in after the film, and I wasn't on the set, so I didn't get the pleasure of freezing or anything, but Wes brought me the movie. Now, in those days, there were no VCRs, there were no DVDs. There was nothing. They brought 35mm film to my house, and they set up a moviola, and I started watching this, and I realized how scary it was, and I could not work at night. It was so damn scary. I only worked in the daytime, and then at nighttime I would stop writing, and I would go hide in my bedroom. And so this film really, really got to me. And I just get a quick commercial. They sent me a tape, a reel-to-reel tape of the music after we were finished, of the score. And it was in a locker up until about 2 weeks ago. And I got it out of the locker. And these tapes, they died. 1978 tape, the emulsion separates from the acetate. So you have to put it in an oven for 10 hours, and you keep it at a very low temperature to dry it. And then you can play it one time and transfer it to Pro Tools, which is what I did. And I've made some CDs. I'm not saying it was a commercial, but just that these tapes are very fragile. And so if you ever hear somebody say something about baking the tapes, that's what we're talking about.
Oh. He has them for sale at his table.
Well, one of the most interesting things about The Hills Have Eyes 2 is when they have flashbacks to the original. Instead of your music, it's the Harry Manfredini music composed for Hills Have Eyes 2, which really shows how much a score can affect a scene. Like the flashbacks to The Hills Have Eyes are kind of bizarre with that new music.
So is his music better than mine?
Well, all of his music sounds like the Friday 13th soundtrack. So in the Hills Have Eyes 2, you keep expecting Jason to jump on. Not that it's bad music, but every score he did to children, another movie he did, you keep
What about the
expecting.
doggies flashbacks?
I love
That's
the dog
interesting,
flashback.
the doggy
There any other
flashback.
movie in history that has a dog flashback? Come on.
I think it's the only movie, right? Yeah.
Now, you and Michael played quite the prank on the crew when you were about to shoot the rape scene for the first time. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it was like the second day of shooting, and Wes was nervous about the rape scene, and so we were in place, and you know, they pulled back the curtain in the movie to show Michael raping me. So I said, you know, everybody's so uptight. When they pull back the curtain, let's be, you know, French kissing and making out. So, so when Wes called action, Peter Locke, I think, was the one who pulled back the curtain, and he pulls back the curtain, and Michael and I are, you know, like making out really hard, and you know, we spent money on the take, but Wes later said, "Thank you so much. I was so uptight," and it broke the ice, so it's really cool.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful moment. Sometimes we actually get injured, and we had a wonderful DP, Eric Sarnan, and okay, it's handheld, and he has an eyepiece up to his eye, and the lens shade is metal, and when I get pulled off, Brenda, by Mars, we had to time the pullback, and he had a belt on with grips, so his guy would pull him back. Our timing was off, and I caught the back of the camera in the back of my skull and broke skin. I had a bruise, and he had a big shiner. But you know what? This type of movie, you just roll with it.
I had lots of bruises and cuts.
Oh, we did. It was very physical.
We all got everybody. Yeah, everybody. I don't think we even had a medic on the set either.
What's that?
When I did the tarantula scene, I was scared shitless. I did not want to work with that. And oh no, they're harmless, Steve. They're harmless. And then afterwards, I said, are you sure? Because I was from Kansas. In Kansas, we always thought that they were dangerous. Well, we milked them. We milked the tarantulas before so they weren't.
They milked the rattlesnake too, they said.
Yeah. I mean, okay, it was that kind of film. All the way through, it was kind of that kind of sneaky stuff, you know, pulling over on the actors. And we had a lot of accidents. Virginia. Yeah.
Go ahead, tell it.
What?
Virginia,
got hit in the breast.
her squib wasn't tied down securely enough. And so we all had to do squib scenes. And so when her squib went off, it jumped and blew part of her nipple off. Yeah, which as a woman is really frightening.
And they used that as the take. There was only one take of that because she had to be rushed to the hospital, and that's the take you saw.
It's kind of funny because you guys said, I don't think there was a medic there, but, you know, there were some tarantulas and rattlesnakes.
Well, it's like, let's put on a show, seriously. But there we were going, we're doing a movie. We're doing a movie. She was okay, though. She was okay, but it was pretty hairy. And that was supposed to be me, but they hadn't gotten my makeup done because the makeup guys were training people, and they were still training the guy on my face, and I wasn't finished yet. So Virginia went out and did the scene first.
But Dee, your death scene, just I cry when you die. It's so sad.
Thank you.
And your response was just tremendous. And you kicked ass, brother. Go take care of your, look after your mom. Man, you just rock, brother.
Well, I tell you what, I didn't trust Lance when we were fighting in the desert, on the desert,
I remember.
rolling around getting scraped and scratched. And I didn't trust him because he was a kind of a method actor, and he liked to do things spontaneously. But he had this damn sharp knife sticking in my eye, and he's saying, I said, what? Hold on, just hold on.
Yeah,
Come
there
on,
wasn't
guys.
much rehearsal either.
Well, we tried to rehearse, but he would get into the scene, and I thought, Jesus, he's twice my size, and he's gonna stabbed me in the face.
Is that when I
I was
killed him?
going to lose an eye.
That's when I had to kill him.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And,
right. I saved you, not the baby.
So we rehearsed that several times and decided it would go down to the side of my face. But it was scary because, like you're saying, sometimes it wasn't all that professional, but sometimes it was very professional because, I mean, they had a first-rate photographer. Eric Serna made this film really sing. It's one of the reasons why it has that documentary feel, 16 millimeter, like you're watching it through a keyhole, and that's why it has such a wonderful tone about it, because the professionalism of first Wes Craven, and secondly, he knew what he wanted, he knew what he was doing, he knew what shots he wanted, he knew what shots he didn't want. And when Wes was on the set, everything was in total control. Like Clint Eastwood, they say these days, is very laid back, very easygoing, no hassle on the set. We had the same thing. We had a first-rate special effects guy who blew up that trailer.
And
It was a
were
one-time
happy to
only
see
deal.
it.
We were very happy to see it, but we had no toilet after that. So it was hold it, and wait for the explosion.
I remember one of the first days we were going to the set. After a couple of days, we were driving to the set, and sandy desert roads turned into washboard, they call it after a while. We were rolling along, and Peter Locke is driving, and I think I was sitting in the co-pilot seat, and I opened up the, I was bored, so I opened up the glove box, and there was the contract for the rental of the Mini Winnebago. And, I mean, we're just, we're going on the washboard, and I go, hey, Peter, it says right here, you promised not to take this Mini Winnebago off of the pavement. And by the time we wrapped, the rivets were popping out, and the paneling was a mess.
Yeah.
He can buy a ton of Winnebagos now.
You can hire us all again.
I want to do the Hills Have Eyes 3. Not a remake.
Hey, did they ever make Hills Have Eyes on Mars? I heard that was a rumor. That never happened.
Should we take some questions from the audience for the esteemed panel in back?
Well, it's really great to see you all here because back in 2000, Wes Craven, he came to Cleveland. He was at the Senior League Theater, and he's a Clevelander, so we're really proud of that. Well, I was wondering, what do you all think of the remake? Because it's kind of hard to watch it. I like the mystery of the first one.
I like the first 12 minutes, and then when the National Guard are in the cave and they take that little metal thing with the teeth and it does the extension, it goes, I go, that'll never work. But I did like the opening. It was kind of creepy with the mannequins and the atomic, They should have built, they didn't have a story. It was slash and kill, and that's
Hills Have Eyes 1 in the beginning, and they followed it per se. I mean, with the trailer, the family, this gas station. I'm going, wow. And that was the end of the wow. And Ruby's part was non-existent. You see her run through the movie.
You're talking about the remake, right?
I'm talking about the remake. The beginning of it was identical, and then they went off. They went crazy, and there was no Ruby in there.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah. And Wes Craven's known for strong female
film.
characters.
It's not a horror film.
Thank
Hills
you.
Have Eyes is a horror film.
Yeah.
2 is a slasher movie.
Yeah, well, back in the 80s, I saw it in the theater when I was a young boy, and the scene that really stuck out to me was like eating the raw hamburger meat with the milk,
Right.
So, that's what I remember from my childhood. It was one of my nicest memories.
You're very welcome.
We feel for you, dude.
I want to show, there's a moment where Wes Craven really shows his brilliance. And it's when the father goes to meet Grandpa Fred, and he's trying to hang himself. And he says, well, you always try to scare away trespassers by trying to hang yourself. And he says, how's your family? He goes, oh, they're fine. And John Stedman says, like hell they are. Some of you ought to know. He tells the story. And then he goes, so you think his ghost is out to haunt you? And then he looks at the stuff he's trying to trade, and Ruby does nothing more to trade. And so the guy goes to the father, he goes, well, what's all this stuff? And he goes, oh, that's nothing. And he goes, he says a preparatory line. He says, "Oh, so you think he's still out there to get you?" And he goes, "How's your family?" "Well, they're fine. Like hell they are." "Well, he sets you up for this thing." He goes, "Oh, that's just nothing." "Oh, no." He goes, sorry. He goes, "So I took a tire iron and I split his face wide open. I didn't think he would live more than a couple hours out in that heat." Da-da-da-da-da. And then he goes, "Well, how bad was it?" Now that always makes me laugh. But Wes is so smart. It relieves you, and then he says, "Well, what's this stuff?" "Oh, nothing, that's..." And then what happens? That overcranked, slow-mo through the window, boom, 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 boom. And then, oh, it's just gripping. So Wes knows what he's doing.
Well, you've worked with him more than just about anybody. You were in at least 3 movies, 4 after this, 3 after this. How did he change as a director over time as he made more films?
After we did Hills 2, I did a movie called Deadly Blessings with Sharon Stone and Ernest Borgnine. And missed you, Ernest. What a lovely gentleman. It just came out on DVD special release. It's awesome. And I was in a little place called Waxahachie, Texas. And it was a very interesting shoot. It was extremely perplexing because the owners of the ranch did not like us to paint their house and make it look fresher, and they even put some landscaping which they wanted taken out because they thought their taxes would go up. That wasn't my issue. My issue with Deadly Blessings, a brilliant film, was that I had a girlfriend from San Antonio, Texas, who was a knockout blonde athletic gal, and we had 3 other gals there on the set who were all in competition with one another. And they kind of, I guess they felt competition to my girlfriend. Long story short, I'm in my hotel room and my girlfriend says, "I don't like these actresses." And I go, "What's the problem?" She goes, "Well, I don't want to go back to the set." So I called Wes Craven at 11 o'clock at night before I get on the plane. I go, "Hey, Wes, can you make Sharon Stone and the rest start to chill out?" And here's this quote. He goes, "Michael, I can't control these women." So I go, "Okay, thank you." And I went back to the set and we wrapped it. But Wes.
That's how he changed.
Wes is pretty cool.
And who else has got a question?
For me, it kind of lends itself to a lot of psychoanalytic interpretations of it. Don't even talk about it for hours. But I wanted to ask you, in retrospect, do you feel like there was anything happening sort of in the cultural kismet at that time that Craven was kind of going after, in terms of the script itself? Like, was there something happening? Was there incidents that you kind of drove the writing?
In society in general?
Yeah, society might have subconsciously kind of driven the story, or...
I just tell you that I asked Wes a question on the set of Hills 2. I said, "Why do you write these kind of movies? Did you always want to do this?" And he said, "No, it was just a means to another end." He started out in the horror genre to make money so he could do different kind of movies, but it ended up being so successful that he just stayed in that. But that's not what he intended, what he told me.
Somebody else have a question?
Anybody else out there?
Any recollections of James Whitworth? I believe his name was a gentleman that played Papa Jupiter. He seemed like he was you were talking about method acting with Lance Gordon. He seems like he seemed like he took that one to an extra level too. Any good stories about him?
Yeah, Jimmy really did. As a matter of fact, he was an avid golfer, and one day Jimmy Whitworth and I decided to go play golf, and we wore our Pluto and Papa Jupe outfit. It was in Apple Valley, California, and it was hot, so we took our shirts off, and we're still wearing our get-up. We're having a good golf game. All of a sudden, some ladies come up in a golf cart, and they go, "Gentlemen, you have to put on your shirts." And here's what this is what Jimmy Whitworth said. And this is a quote. "Who are you?" Any children in the audience? I'm going to swear. Okay. He goes, "Who are you, the goddamn rules committee?" And the 2 gals look at each other and they go, "Yes, we are the rules committee." So we humble pie, put our shirts back on, and got another beer and finish it around.
He just mentioned something about swearing. I think there are no swear words in this film. For the genre that it is, for the horror that it is, for the angst that it is, there are no swear words. Or nudity. There's no goddamn or anything like that. I mean, it's almost crystal clear of any kind of profanity. So I think that's an interesting comment about the times. And you were talking about the times. There were some vicious killings in Hollywood, and it's escaping me right now who the
Patty Hearst
Patty Hearst,
being kidnapped or whatever it was, and the Hillside Strangler. So, it was like during that time in Hollywood, it was a very dangerous time at that time. And but I don't know that had any. I think if that was your question, I don't know that the things that were happening in the society had that big of an impact on Wes's motivation for writing The Hills Have Eyes.
Can't ask him, he's not here.
Well, I've talked to Wes a couple times, and I know he basically told me he wrote what he knew. He grew up in a religious household. He didn't even see movies till he was an adult, and he wrote what he knew. He was about an Ohio family that get caught in the desert. So, basically, that's why I don't think there's any swearing
Based
or
on a
anything
true
in it, because he
story.
never grew
Based
up
on a true
around
story,
it.
yeah.
His family didn't do it either, so he wanted to make it as realistic, and as realistic as he made it was his family, based on his.
So when they tell you to stay on the main road,
Yeah. Don't split up,
everything wrong.
Don't go off the road.
And I mean,
Don't leave the girls alone.
Wes Craven really just wanted to stay involved in making movies. After Last House on the Left, he did go back and make at least one other hardcore film, and then the equipment used on that film was used in The Hills Have Eyes. That movie's called Angela is the Fireworks Woman. Other questions?
I want to also thank everybody on the panel here for coming to Cleveland. We're proud to have you, and we're proud of the film.
We love Cleveland, and we love Cinema Wasteland, the best show in the country.
We love Cinema Wasteland. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. My question is for the whole panel, one at a time. What inspired you to get into a career in film? Basically.
I started acting when I was 13 in Dallas, and I did a terrible movie when I was like 17 called The Pickle Goes in the Middle. You can buy it on Amazon.com, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Was it a gherkin?
And I never really wanted to do anything else. And I knew from when I was just a little girl that this is what I would do, and I moved to Hollywood. First I moved to New York, did theater, and then I moved to Hollywood in the 70s. So.
I actually started when I was 4 in Kansas City. My mom was a saint and an amazing actress, local actress in Kansas City. And I pretty much learned everything I knew from her in the beginning. And I wanted to be a professional dancer, and I did dance with a couple of ballet companies, but I was a pretty big fish
And
and
you
very,
taught dance
very
too.
small. No, that's the only thing I didn't do is tap dance.
No, taught. You taught.
Oh, I taught dance,
Yes.
yeah, for years. So when my teacher said, you can be good, but you'll never be great, I went, well, what the hell? I want to be great, so I'll act, right? So after I taught a year of high school, I moved to New York City. And the first day I arrived in New York, I had an audition with Hal Prince for a little night music because I had sent him a very cheesy picture and an even cheesier letter that said, just think you could have an unknown girl from Kansas starring in your next. And he called me and said he wanted to fly me in, and I talked to his secretary, and she said, well, Mr. Prince needs you here on this day. And I went, oh, well, I already have my ticket. I get in at 1 o'clock. What time are the auditions? Well, the auditions aren't till 4. And she said, well, dear, wouldn't you like us to fly you in? I was so Kansas, you don't lie, you don't take advantage of people. And I said, oh no, I wouldn't want Mr. Prince to, so I could have flown first class, right? So the day I landed in New York, I had an audition with Hal Prince. I got down to the last 5 girls after the dancing and the acting. And then they said, okay, well, Mr. Prince would like to hear you all sing. And I went, oh, I didn't know I had to sing. And they said, well, dear, it is a musical. So the first day in New York, I sang Happy Birthday for Hal Prince. And the accompanist says to me, what key? And I go, somewhere in the middle. So, but I was off and running, and I found out who to study with, and I started studying with Udo Hagen, and my dance background got me my equity card, and my Kansas looks got me lots of commercials, and so I was off.
Well, I didn't start at a young age. I didn't wait until I got into college, and I kind of got involved in the theater, and I started acting in the film in a stage play that they had, and it was my very first, and I got a starring role for God knows why, because I looked like the part. And I remember the director asking me to do something, and I hadn't a clue how to do this. And he asked me about the 10th time, and finally looked up, he said, Martin, how many plays have you done? I said, oh, this is my first. He said, I thought so. Well, let's continue. And I soon got a scholarship at Youngstown University. I got a scholarship at Pittsburgh Playhouse. And instead of going to New York, which was close by, I went to Los Angeles and tried to break into the movies. And that's how I started. So, and I started dancing. I danced and sang on a Jonathan Winters special. That was my first opportunity to be in the films. It was television, and it was a Jonathan Winters special. And I don't know how the hell I got away with that, but I danced and sang, and they cast me.
Well, like you ladies, I knew that I wanted to do something, I don't know what the word acting was, but I wanted to be out there in front of people all the time. I dragged my mother to anything that had anything to do with auditions, little fashion shows. I was on Popeye. I did the squiggle contest, and they said, you would have won if you knew how to shade. You know, I didn't know how to shade when I drew my squiggle, you know, I remember that too. And then I got, eventually ended up doing non-union extra parts. And instead of being like mostly extras, smoking and drinking coffee and hanging out somewhere, I'd be on the set watching, learning, being right there. And when the director would go, I need someone to, and then what are you doing? How about you? And I would get pulled up to do something. And then one thing just led to another, led to one line, and that's basically how it happened. You know, paying attention, wanting to be there. And when they had casting roles as non-union, they said, we're going to go as a tourist for a Mexican restaurant. I went as a Mexican. See, I would go, you know, I dressed the roles when I went for the parts. And when I did Primal Man. Do you remember Primal Man on TV? Well, I went for Primal Man, and I went in my Ruby outfit. I went in that little leather outfit, and everyone was in suits and ties and dresses and heels, and I went, oh my God. And I sat there going, I feel so ridiculous. And I said, just stay strong, Janice. And the director came down and said, come here for a minute. This doesn't mean you have the part. And he picked me up and threw me over his shoulder, and then walked me down to the producer's office, and then I did get the part. But yeah, so just really being really out there. That's how I started.
I had left college in 1972, University of California, and I always wanted to work for Habitat Preservation, maybe in the Yukon or in Alaska. I have lived at a both-side career for over 20 years, so I had no inclination at all to be an actor. I had sang folk music with a friend of mine from high school and college. He played the killer martin guitar. I can sing pretty good and write good lyrics. So, you know, I figured, well, I'm going to be a nature photographer and go abroad. I got back to Santa Monica, where I grew up, and opened up a little arty-farty little store in Venice Beach. And lo and behold, the gentleman across the street had a father whose name was George Powell. George Powell produced War of the Worlds, Journey to the Center of the Earth, a wonderful gentleman. He walked into my store one day and he says, I've been talking to my son and daughter-in-law, and you have an interesting look. I go, yeah, well, I know that. And he goes, no, seriously. He says, I'd like you to be in my movie. And I go, well, I'm not an actor. I just want to get the hell out of LA and, you know, live in the woods and be with nature. And he goes, well, would you do me a favor and please be in my movie? He hands me a business card and it says Warner Brothers, George Powell. And then like an idiot, here's what I said. I go, do you know who you are? I was in awe. I said, man, you produced, you know, War of the Worlds. He goes, he's patting me on the shoulder and he says, calm down. He says, really just call my office. So I did. I worked 2 days. I got tapped partly. I had a union card and $200 in my pocket. And I figured, well, that was a quick career. Ironically, George had a casting director, Mike Fenton and Gene Feinberg, who were casting for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which I worked 127 days, 6 days a week, and I was like you. I love art history, I have a degree in art history, and I asked everybody questions. I drove them crazy. But, hi, why are you here? Why is it important? What do you do? And Milos finally took me aside. He says, come here. He stood me in front of a Panavision camera. We had carbon arc lighting back in the day where you run you have to do your scenes according to how long the carbon will burn. And he says, look at the lens. I go, yes, sir. He says, do you see the glass? I go, yes, sir. He says, I want you to have a love affair with the lens. And I have DPs that I've worked with for over many decades, and I can call out an f-stop. I know my depth of field and all that kind of stuff. Many actors that work, the newbies, they need to know what the lens can do for you, because it's a win-win for everybody. So you learn everybody's job, and it makes it a family experience. It's wonderful. And I can't live in a planet without art. So you're all part of art of living, and now it's on to Dawn.
I feel so honored to be here. I'm going to ask you guys a favor after I speak. I'd love to take a photograph of you guys because I'm so thrilled that you're all here. So is that going to be okay if I shoot one with my camera? Is that right? Yeah. Okay, so I was a guitar player. And I'd come off the road with Ray Charles. I was playing for Ray for a long time. And I was studying film scoring. And I wanted to write. And Wes said, hey, you know, I want to do this movie. And I said, well, I'm writing modern music. And so he said, well, let's do this. So that's how I got hired to do. I had just come back from England. I did some Harold Lloyd movies. I did a thing called The Legend of Bigfoot, which somebody reminded me of. I'd forgotten about it. So this was one of my very, very early jobs. And I hired a small string orchestra. Synthesizers didn't really exist at that time. So I just got some instruments that sounded interesting, and I took the bones from Your Necklace and had the percussionists play those in the score. And I've been scoring films and playing guitar ever since.